Welcome back, everyone. This is part 12 on what if the Transformers were in high school. DXD. I do not own the Transformers and DXD or any of the characters in this video. Chapter 7. Meanwhile a T an unknown location, in another reality, your choice. Secret headquarters, a large Autobot, colored mostly blue and white with red accents, surveyed the damage to a complex he was tasked with guarding the monitors of the headquarters. This was Ultra Magnus, the first lieutenant of the Autobots, and a general of sorts to this multiversal force his commanding officer now leads. And he was looking at the damage dealt to Tony Stark's Avengers complex. He couldn't believe that Hydra and the Decepticon forces led by Scorponok did so much damage, and all to get the hammer he was currently carrying on his back. Ultra Magnus thanked Primus that Fortress Maximus was there to handle the Decepticon-allied Titan. The battle could have ended in tragedy if he wasn't there on time. He knows it wasn't the only thing they were after, but he was curious about why Hydra wanted the Forge of Solus Prime, an ancient artifact from Cybertron, so desperately. Surely, he figured, Hydra was already informed that it would only respond to the power of a Prime, and even then, its power is completely drained, making the admittedly beautiful hammer completely worthless to them. Perhaps they weren't informed that it's completely drained of the power to make anything out of raw materials. Or maybe they planned to capture it to use as a bargaining chip. Ultra Magnus said to himself, arms crossed. Even so, I dare not just give it to them. This is a piece of Cybertron's history, and whatever is even left of its lost culture. I won't let those uncultured terrorists have something that important for any reason. Uncultured is a bit of a stretch, isn't it, Magnus? A feminine voice said to the commander. He looked down and saw the human guise of the legendary Pokémon, Rayquaza, a young, curvaceous to his eyes. If he saw this form and very beautiful woman with long black hair and piercing topaz eyes, Rayquaza said with a bit of a smirk that Magnus usually associates with Sonic, their actions definitely looked like they were determined to get their hands on the artifacts we had stored, especially that hammer you're holding, at any cost. But uncultured, considering their cult-like structure, I guess it would seem like that. Old Red Skull is known to be a bit of a crazy pants when things don't go his way or Hydra's way. Otherwise, he's too much of a smart ass for his own good. I've been resisting the urge to just kill the bastard myself because I personally find him annoying. Ultra Magnus rolled his optics and added, and not because he tried to force you to be a weapon of theirs. I'm not in the mood for your opinions, Rayquaza. Shouldn't you be worried for your trainer? Sean, nah, he can handle himself. Rosa too, even though they're my favorite playthings of mine and Palkia's. The deity Pokémon responded with a pout at Ultra Magnus' reply, saying next, man, the wreckers were right about you being a hard ass to deal with, and I was just trying to be friendly with you. Ultra Magnus focused on the monitors as he replied, sigh. And you have problems with your bloodlust, like your father said you have. And I'm inclined to agree with Arceus. Rayquaza shot the Autobot a glare that could kill, as she snapped back with a pout. Leave Pop out of this, Minimus Ambus. Ultra Magnus turned to Rayquaza and replied, slightly confused. Why do you still call me that? That's the name of my predecessor in the Elite Guard. Rayquaza gave him a playful expression and stuck out her tongue as she answered his question. 'Cause it's fun, and it drives you nuts until you learn to loosen up with your attitude. Ultra Magnus had enough of her antics and said sternly, let's get one thing clear. You're behaving like those loose cannons that are the wreckers, so I will not tolerate your behavior any further, regardless of you being the daughter of one of the most powerful beings in existence. Now go bother someone else already and let me work on figuring out why Hydra wanted the Forge of Solus Prime. Rayquaza sighed and started to walk away as she said, oh that. I already figured out why a few days ago. Ultra Magnus turned to Rayquaza in surprise and asked her, wait, what? You have already figured it out? Please, tell me why Hydra wanted the Forge for. He was trying to ask politely to Rayquaza, but she pouted and refused. Nope, you were mean to me. Now I don't want to tell you. Ultra Magnus sighed as he thought, Primus. She's hundreds of millions of years old, yet she acts like a child. Blast it. Where's Hashimoto when you need him? A few other Autobot soldiers and she-iled. Agents were watching this and trying very hard not to laugh. This was way too funny to stop watching now. And it just got funnier as Ultra Magnus attempts to apologize to Rayquaza and get her to tell him why Hydra was after the Forge of Solus Prime. Humorously looked like the two were a couple, Ultra Magnus strictly said as the emerald-clad deity avoided his eye contact. Please tell me why. You're obstructing my job as Optimus Prime's military commander over your petty grudge. He nor your trainer would condone such behavior. No, Rayquaza said, much like a child would. I was trying to be nice, and you were mean to me. You hurt my feelings. I'm not talking to you. Oh dang. One of the observing Autobot soldiers said to his buddies quietly. Magnus just dug his grave with that remark. He seriously doesn't understand women, heck. I don't understand females, and even I know that's just making her madder. They all chuckled as another one added, yeah dog. Magnus is making it much harder for him to get Rayquaza to tell him he does need to loosen up. Of all that was all Ultra Magnus got to say before Rayquaza shifted into her true form of the iconic emerald green dragon Pokemon and flew off through a large door. Ultra Magnus pinched his nose and sighed heavily. Rayquaza is far older than he is, yet she acts like a sparkling or child in human or Nebulan terminology. He just can't deal with them now, or ever. His audio sensors picked up the snickering of some of the other Autobots and soldiers, and he looked at them with an unamused scowl. The soldiers tensed up as Ultra Magnus' stern glare soured a little, prompting one of the soldiers to say, 50 push-ups, got it. They all hurried off to do 50 push-ups, as Ultra Magnus tried to calm his nerves after all that. But his brief relaxation attempt was interrupted by a young woman's voice saying to him, I see the troops I've hired still cower at you, Ultra Magnus. Ultra Magnus knew who that was, and took a deep breath as he replied, Are you going to criticize me as well, Palkia? He looked down to see another beautiful young woman like Rayquaza was. But this girl had long pink hair that stretched to her abdomen, bright red eyes, and compared to Rayquaza, she looked a little younger than Rayquaza. This was Palkia in many regards, the founder and benefactor of this multiverse task force in her human guise. In some regards, she kinda counts as the boss of Optimus Prime, in turn making her Ultra Magnus boss as well. No. I think you kinda did that already to yourself. Palkia replied to the Autobot. Ultra Magnus added to his prior statement, shouldn't you be searching for the specific Godzilla who can defeat Ghidorah? Our current #1 priority. Palkia stretches her arms as she answered, taking a break. You look for the king of the monsters we need to best old Scaly. Psychopath in a ludicrous number of realities and tell me you don't want a break. The Autobot could see that Palkia seemed pissed at him for his question. He forgot that even if he doesn't see it often, Palkia works harder than virtually anyone else in this organization she founded. Harder than he ever can. Ultra Magnus knew better than to incur Palkia's wrath, so he said to her, I'm sorry my behavior was unacceptable towards you. Of course you've been searching for one Godzilla among trillions of versions of the same being. Palkia huffed, as she replied, like how you handled Hydra. Wanting that pile of old scrap you're carrying. I knew why they wanted it. Heck, I told Rayquaza, as she also figured it out as I did. But you hurt my little sister's feelings, so I'm not telling you. The space deity crossed her arms and turned her back at Ultra Magnus as he replied to her, you knew about that. Sigh, I didn't mean to do that. I was just frustrated with how things have been escalating lately, especially with Ghidorah and Megatron. And I had to deal with the Wreckers again and rein in those loose cannons. Your sister made me relapse when I was dealing with them. You are aware that when she said you should loosen up, it wasn't a request, but an order, Palkia said, and as Ultra Magnus tried to reply, she interrupted with a statement full of weight. By the boss man of the entirety of existence, Ultra Magnus looked like he realized he made a mistake with his hand on his face. I am sorry, Palkia. I'm not the one you should apologize to, Magnus. Palkia interrupted. Apologize to my little sister, whose feelings you hurt. Palkia's aura grew overwhelmingly ominous and bloodthirsty as she threatened Ultra Magnus. Or I'll give you a reason on why you wish you were never forged by Primus. Ultra Magnus put his hands up defensively as he said he will to the legendary Pokemon's face. He knew she was pretty mad, and knew this often mischievous girl was not to make an enemy out of. The memory of all those grouchy Autobots giving her gruff, and she put them in their place. He didn't want to have the same thing happen to him that it did to uncooperative Autobots like Grimlock. Ultra Magnus quickly asked Palkia if she would take him to her sister so he can apologize, but the pink-haired goddess told him that for now, he should keep his distance. He left to talk with Hope and Star Saber with how the Master Swordsman's mission was going, leaving Palkia to just watch him go, only for a female Autobot to walk beside her and say, you made it look like you made him leak lubricants. Go easy on Ultra Magnus, will you? He's had it rougher than Prime did in regards of dealing with the Decepticons. Palkia sighed as she said, yeah, I'll keep that in mind, Alita. Palkia turned her gaze to Alita 1, an Autobot who admittedly by human standards, would be an attractive woman. She wore pink armor that isn't as bulky as most Autobots. One might even say she had armor that helped define her more feminine form, while still looking quite bulky for armor. Palkia, her massive lifetime of existence and meeting all sorts of creatures, even had to admit, Alita was a cute bot and very pleasing to the eyes. Palkia dropped her serious gaze and said next to the female Autobot with a smile, "Anyways, I have a job for you." Alita 1 rubbed an old blast mark on her shoulder, as she replied, "I'm still recovering from my confrontation with Hydra, especially that thing that looked disgusting to look at. Modek, I think it's called." Palkia giggled a little as she said, "Oh yeah, him yeah, he's gross to look at." Yet AME's quote, leader, unquote, thinks himself a stud enough to try and woo some of the girls. He's just a floating head with dinky little arms and legs that flop around completely useless. I'm not even gonna mention his manhood and how a newborn baby boy would be bigger than he is with his disproportionate frame. Alita giggled herself, as she agreed, to which Palkia stated back topic. "It's not that big of a deal, I just need you and Magnus to head to the same reality I managed to send Skylynx and his small party to, and take a few relics we have with you, and whatever troops we can spare." Alita's expression changes to shock. She knew the reality Palkia was referring to, the same one Optimus Prime was currently in, and trapped at because Ghidorah destroyed the ship he used to cross dimensions. She looked hesitant as she asked, "Are you sure you need me and Ultra Magnus there?" Palkia answered almost immediately, "Call it a hunch. With Dialga's abilities to see the flow of time and see all futures." Yes, after the Thanos incident with the Infinity Stones, his powers were greatly weakened, because Mr. Nutsack Chin in his stupidity made my twin brother part of that half of randomly dusted life, and he spent months keeping himself from and by that, taking existence down with him. "Yeah, I beat you to your reasons why you think that my bro isn't up to stuff." Alita sighed in defeat. She did have initial concerns about the god of time or time personified, but Palkia correctly guessed what she would rebuff, and can tell that Palkia was adamant that she goes. With a sigh, she asked, "Fine, as for the artifacts you want me and Ultra Magnus to take with us, what do you want us to take?" Palkia has a mischievous, almost devilish, smirk plastered on her face and a glint of a trickster's in her eyes as she coyly asked, "Ooh, afraid to meet your boyfriend again?" If Alita 1 could blush, she'd be as red as Ironhide at Palkia mentioning her boyfriend and immediately knew who she was referring to. She quickly snapped back, "No, Optimus and I aren't a thing. You were a thing back on Cybertron if I'm correct, right?" Palkia said as her face now resembled a cat's by mischief standards, complete with manifesting cat ears, tail, whiskers, and nose. Alita slapped her hand to her face as she replied, "That was a long time ago. Please just answer my question." Palkia pouted a little. Her little bit of fun was ruined, and she complied, "Oh, fine. You're no fun. Obviously, I have an abandoned Autobot ship I found and got restored. Take that. Obviously, Magnus has Solus Prime's Creep Basher, so that's going. Take the Enigma of Combination, Vector Sigma, and this." Palkia manifested a glowing blue gemstone with a wave of her hand. Alita's eyes widened as she asked, "The Chaos Emerald. But Megatron has the other 5. If I take that, he'll have 6, while we have none. We'll be at his mercy." Palkia confidently said, "I have a plan, and it will work with 99.99% success in our favor. But if I tell you any more about my plan, the chances of it failing will rise exponentially. I came up with it alongside Stevie. Strange, it will work." Alita held the blue gem, feeling its incredible power turn warm and comforting in her hands. She nodded in understanding as Palkia added, "You may want to keep Magnus out of the loop until you meet up with Prime regarding the Chaos Emerald. The last one will be in place soon, and I'll have Knuckles bring his Master Emerald with you guys." Alita wanted to question more about Palkia's mysterious plan, but forced herself not to, at risk of turning Palkia's 99.99% success into a long shot. She nodded and was about to leave, until Palkia added, "Oh yeah, don't forget to give this to Hashimoto. The goof left his most powerful weapon here, take it to him for me, will you?" Back at the Hudu residence, 2 hours later, your choice, high school DDD, Riaz was in Issy's room, packing a few things he'll likely need back at the hospital. A fresh change of clothes, a manga or two, anything else she feels he needs to occupy his attention as he has to stay for a night or two. Anything else she feels he needs to occupy his attention as he has to stay for a night or two. Sean was helping her out, grabbing the comics and manga to occupy Issei's attention. Sean said as he held one particular magazine like it was moldy cheese. Oh great, Hudu is one of those boys, isn't he? Riaz looked at the magazine in Sean's fingers, and her face soured a little at it. The magazine was one of those Playboy magazines, with attractive girls in seductive poses and revealing clothes, if they weren't wearing them at all. Riaz didn't mind so much if Issei had these kinds of books, but this one rubbed her the wrong way, so she destroyed it. She answered Sean's question, yes, if you mean he's a pervert. But aren't all boys interested in that kind of stuff? Sean knew she was asking him if he had the same tastes as Issei, and answered, no, I'm no pervert like my cousin, who I can argue is a bigger pervert than Issei. Emphasis on the argue part. Riaz giggled a little as the real-life Pokemon trainer continued. I respect a girl enough to not treat them like Issei does if what I've heard about him is true. But make no mistake, I'm not afraid to hit a girl if the situation demands it. Besides, why would I be interested in that kind of magazine when I have a wife, who at times puts herself in such outfits to entice me, which is really unnecessary. Riaz was a little surprised. From what Sean said, he said to simplify, he is no pervert, and treats women with respect unless provoked. It also sounded like he and wife are in a very intimate relationship. I still find it a little neat that you're a real-life Pokemon trainer. Riaz said, your Gardevoir is beautiful to look at, and your Tyranitar looks powerful. You must be an accomplished trainer with Pokemon like those. Sean put Issei's manga in the bag he was told to put them in, and replied, runner-up for the world championships by the skin of my teeth, should give you an idea. You must be strong then. Riaz said as she closed up the small suitcase with Issei's clothes. And does Ash Ketchum exist in your reality? Sean looked at Riaz as they both stepped out of Issei's room. You mean Satoshi? Yeah, he's a close friend and rival. Our last several battles against each other were remarkably all draws. Why do you ask? Riaz looked at Sean. She was made aware that the Pokemon trainers were aware that their reality exists as a game franchise here. So she has to know. So is he still a 10-year-old kid? Sean answered, no, he's a couple years younger than I am. He's a young adult himself. Why? Riaz asked to satiate her curiosity. Who did he end up with? Sean looked at Riaz with confused eyes. Then he had I see look on his face. He remembered he was asked this a couple times. In the past, in other realities. As soon as they hear he's from the Pokemon world, and that he knows Ash Ketchum, he answered, Satoshi is married to a girl from France named Serena Bellamy. They have a daughter already. That's as far as the reality I came from is concerned. Riaz was surprised. She's seen the show, and hasn't gotten around to looking at the most recent seasons yet, but has heard they were really good. She's heard about a girl with the name Serena before, and based on the fact he's aware of this kind of thing, she thinks the character she knows, and the girl Sean was referring to, were the same person. Riaz replied as they entered the living room. That's surprising. I always thought that, Sean interrupted, that he would end up with Katsumi, or otherwise known as Misty in America. Yeah, I get that a lot, but the thing is in my reality, Katsumi is several years older than Satoshi. Heck, she's older than me, and she is currently married to an Olympic athlete, not to mention that she was his babysitter when he was a toddler. Riaz didn't expect this, and then it dawned on her that there's the whole many worlds, many timelines deal the Autobots had explained some days ago. Your choice. Shenanigans. By the kitchen, Akano was cooking food for Issei to have at the hospital, with the physician's permission, and with her was Rosa, making sure the pot doesn't boil over, and two of these mini-cons who are allied with the Autobots, trying to peel potatoes and failing. You clunkhead. One of the mini-cons barked. You mashed another one. Like you're doing any better, Sparkplug. The other one snapped back and threw the mashed potato at the mini-con named Sparkplug. At least I'm trying to do it right, unlike you. Sparkplug looked mad at his fellow mini-con, and said sternly, you best apologize for insulting my methods, crowbars, or I won't be held responsible for what happens to you afterwards. Rosa shouted like a mom with rowdy kids. Crowbars. Sparkplug, shut up and help Akano with the potatoes, or sit over there and be quiet. Sparkplug replied, make me, ugly human. And Crowbars wasn't far behind. Go stick a tube up your tailpipe, fatty. Rosa slammed her fist hard on an unused pan, and broke the pan easily. which shut the two human-sized transformers up. They both huddled together in fear as Rosa turned to the two with glaring eyes with a wide smile. Akano slipped out of there beside her best friend, as she knew those mini-cons are in serious trouble now and she did not want to be in the way. Rosa said while cracking her fists, "What did you to call me again?" Sparkplug stuttered, "And nothing, mighty warrior goddess Rosa Parker." Crowbars joined. "We didn't say anything," Rosa said as an energy field of sorts built up around her, making her long hair wriggle like snakes. "If you were gonna lie, be better at it. Now you two are dead bots." She grabbed the two mini-cons in the face, and she said sweetly to her husband, "Sean, would you please help?" "Akano, while I teach these to some manners, thank you, honey," Sean nervously replied. "Sure thing, honey." No, 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 no," Sparkplug pleaded to the young woman, with Crowbars adding, "Please, have mercy." Rosa didn't reply as she dragged the two bots to another room. As bits of blue fire danced across her body, Sean then said to Riaz, "That's also a good motivator to rein in whatever perverted behavior I do have inside me. I love Rosa with all my heart, but it's when things like this happen, when I'm utterly terrified of my own wife." Riaz chuckled a little as she replied, "I can see that." Those two were asking for trouble, much like that frenzy mini-con when he called Akano. Akano's aura turned very ominous as a creepy smile formed on her face, saying in interruption, "Oh yes, and if I see that little bastard again, ha 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 ha, I will make him wish he wasn't built." Sean wasted no time in peeling the potatoes and sent out his Starmie to look after the pot. And Akano continued cooking her darling Issy's food, amidst the sound of Sparkplug and Crowbars screaming in agony, and the sound of metal crashing. End of the video. Meanwhile at the same time at the hospital. Your choice. Issy had met some new faces within the last 2 hours, as many as he could with those he could meet in person. He was starstruck by some of the non-Autobot members of Optimus team here. Among those some were play a game with how many you recognize. John Stewart aka Green Lantern, one of them at least. Jamie Reyes aka the Blue Beetle. Bruce Banner aka the Hulk. Phil Collison, an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Daisy Johnson, an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. aka Quake. Natasha Romanoff aka the Black Widow. Peter Parker aka Spider-Man. Clint Barton aka Hawkeye. Victor Stone aka Cyborg. Miles Prower, otherwise better known as Tails, Sonic's best buddy. 4 humanoid turtles named Leonardo, Donatello, Michelangelo, and Raphael. There were 2 others that kinda looked familiar to Issy, as they resembled characters from Dragso Ball, but their names were Goku, who resembled the main character, and Vegeta, who resembled the main character's rival. And there were a bunch of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents and a few military personnel who were human for the most part. There was an elf-like person who was part of Optimus' team, which he found out was a Nebulan named Marissa Fairburn, and she seemed like a military commander. Issy thought she was sexy, but avoided her based on this dangerous aura she gave off. He then met with some of the Autobots who were with Optimus when they arrived in his reality. A good majority of them seemed to be what he can best describe as Autobot versions of the Vehicon Decepticons, with more than a few of these bots straight up looking exactly like Vehicons, except the faction symbols were the opposite. A majority of these Autobots called themselves by their manufacturing numbers, like 2 he already met like D002 or J709, but the others had names, and all of the Autobots he met has interesting personalities. Among the named Autobots he met were Protectobots Blades and Rook, Torchbearers Pyra, Magna, Jumpstream and Dust Up, Dinobots Snarl, Slug, and Slash, Aerialbot Alpha Bravo, 3 members of the Wreckers, Roadbuster, Seaspray, and Navaster, several Autobot allied mini-cons, Steeljaw, Rewind, Jetstorm, Wheelie, the largest mini-con according to the bots, Twirl, Falcha, and Combusta, and a brain module drone named Brains, who was described as Wheelie's partner in mischief. There were some he was told about, like one Autobot who was on the Zaxxon he would have gotten along well with, but was among the casualties lost named Trailbreaker, or another Autobot in recovery named High Tide, a hard case seaman, and a superhero who was recovering from pretty serious injuries named Barry Allen, otherwise known as the Flash. He was having a chat with a few of these new faces he met, the for Turtles, Slash, and Brains, and was listening to the Turtles tell him about one of their battles as his friends entered the room. And so, I ripped that Krong from the Krong droid's belly, and used it like my chucks. and shouted Boy Hakasha, which made all the other Krong run away. One of the turtles named Michelangelo said as he swung around a pair of nunchaku around. Another one of the turtles named Leonardo laughed as he added, "Oh ho, oh ho, oh ho. I remember that, Mikey. And I remember hearing one of the Krong say, oh Krong. Krong has done the leaking of body excrement that Krong does and fear that Krong fears. In that way the Krong speak." Issy roared in laughter with the four turtle brothers being the only ones laughing harder and louder than everyone else in that hospital room. The Red Dragon Emperor laughed so hard that he wound up aggravating his hurt stomach and exclaimed in pain with every chuckle he made. Riaz rushes to Issy's side almost immediately when she noticed him hurting, asking as Issy's other admirers rushed over to him, "Issy, are you okay?" The turtle named Raphael said, "He's fine. I warned Mikey about telling funny stories and making your boyfriend laugh in the condition he's in, but this idiot just didn't listen." Raphael proceeded to put Michelangelo in a headlock and aggressively noggied him as the younger turtle brother said, "Ow ow ow ow. Bruh, that hurts yo. I was just trying to cheer him up, 'cause laughter is the best medicine yo. Everyone knows it." The last turtle, Donatello, replied to his brother's response, while technically true Mikey, in this case it's better if he refrains from laughing too hard. The Dinobot Slash replies herself to Donatello's reply. Let the kid laugh, he'll need it, because whatever doesn't kill him, will only make him stronger. Sean was by the door, with a baggage case on one hand, and his wife Rosa in the other arm, and said to the four turtles, Leo, Donnie, Raph, Mikey, we appreciate you keeping Issy company, but for now, give him some rest. I have 10 pizzas waiting for you at the lobby. The four mutant turtles froze the moment they heard the word, pizza, and when Sean told them where it was, the four brothers immediately bolted through the door, fighting each other over who will get to the lobby first. Pizza yo. Mikey, you're not eating all the pizza again. Too slow guys. Hey, stop shoving me Raph. Tell that to this black hole for pizza of a little brother, Donnie. The Orsi heard all of these kinds of shouting amidst all the crashing and the occasional yowling of a cat. Sean seemed to cringe at every crash, so he put down the suitcase and said to everyone, then to Rosa, excuse me, I'll have to leave you guys here for now. I'm kinda responsible for those four brothers at the moment. Sorry to leave you here. Rosa, I'll see you soon. Got to be sure those four don't break anything or get us kicked out. Sean quickly hugged his beloved in a tight embrace, then planted a quick peck on her lips and ran off after the four turtle brothers. Issy heard Sean shouting to one of them, Mikey, get off that wheelchair. That's not a skateboard. Rosa sighed real heavily in exhaustion as she uttered loudly to herself, if this is what having teenagers is gonna be like, I am not looking forward to our kids growing up. Issy heard that and asked Rosa, kids? You have kids. You look like you're our age, Sean too. Slash answered as Rosa moved that suitcase over by the hospital bed. Make no mistake, Issy Hudu. They may look like teenagers, but Sean and Rosa are in their 20s. Early 20s granted, but still there. Brains added, another way to spin it is that they're both at the legal drinking age in America at minimum. Rosa overheard and replied, not that the two of us ever planned to, and yeah, I'm a mother. Sean and I have back home 2 boys and 3 girls. The teen's jaws slacked open as Asia and Zenobia replied, 5 children, and you still look so young, and so good looking. Dragon DNA, Brains said, as he sat on the nightstand beside Issy's bed. They both had accumulated dragon DNA over the years through fusing their souls with the half-souls of a dragon. Now they're dragon hybrids. Kinda. All you need to know is that they'll live longer and age slower as a result, Issy thought. But how did? Rosa interrupted the Red Dragon Emperor. My sex life is my business, unless you're willing to share your masturbation time and what you imagined as you did it. Issy shut himself up, with Slash snickering in the background and his harem looking pretty embarrassed at Rosa's suggestion. Issy gulped as he replied, completely red in the face. No, that is private. I am not gonna talk about that with my friends here, Rosa said with a huff. Double quotes good ... Asia then asked, what kind of dragon did you and Sean fuse your souls with to get dragon DNA from? Slash answered the sweet girl's question. Who do you think on account that the two are Pokemon trainers? The answer is Zekrom for Sean, and Reshiram for Rosa. They've done enough fusions things to where even though they no longer have those twin dragons, they can still access their powers when they fused. Something about using some kind of a splicers or something to do it. Another 2 Autobots entered the room. Issy recognized them as Slash said in response, OJ709 the N903, what brings you to Adrenaline Junkies here? Easy Miss Dinobot. A 903 said, Optimus told us to come here to set up a connection feed with base so Hudu and the other Kuo Academy students can receive what transpires over there. Slash raised her eyebrows and Issy asked, why would you guys want to do that? J709 answered the teen's question. Skylynx and Power Girl are transmitting their message to us early. The two are still a ways out in the solar system, and the news they have is pretty urgent. Urgent enough that they have to risk the cons intercepting the message and listening in. The Occult Research Club looked at each other with worried expressions, prompting Rosa to say as they were readying the video feed, then don't waste any more time you two. I'll get my husband and the Hamato turtles back here. Slash got in front of her and said, let me get your precious conjunks Endura for you. I'm faster, and you can remember details better than I can in case we miss something. Slash's transformation into her alt mode was very quick, even by Transformers standards, as her shift from robot to Dinobot looked almost instantaneous. Slash, as a robotic velociraptor-like dinosaur, took off to the lobby to get Sean Hashimoto and the 4 mutant ninja turtles. Rosa seemed a little embarrassed based on the fact that she was a little red in the face, and she had a hand over it. The Occult Research Club members looked at each other as Asia asked the obvious question, what's a conjunx Endura? Rosa didn't get to answer, as Brains answered for her. It's ancient Cybertronian that, in human terms, refers to one's spouse or soulmate, which that itself is simply called a sparkmate. A 903 was overhearing the conversation as he put down a mini satellite dish at the window, and added, though, the term conjunx Endura has recently been found to have once meant spouse in a let's say for your sakes, a very non-PG manner. It didn't take long for all the girls to figure out what the stealth bomber Autobot meant by that, and all of them blushed in extreme embarrassment, hiding their redder than Ironhide's paint job faces behind their hands or hair. Issy looked a little confused. He was still trying to figure it out, but Kaiba caught on before his friend did, and he was pretty embarrassed himself. Brains finished. These days, while the term has a very wholesome meaning now, it was pretty bad, even derogatory, and anyone who hears the explanation we just gave you, well, it's pretty much the same as saying, they get IT. Rosa said, her face still flushed a vibrant red. You don't need to explain anymore. Please stop, you little perverted pile of gears, Issy commented. I don't get it though. Ria's sighed as Kaiba stated. I will explain it later, Issy, Rosa said to herself aloud, rubbing her hand down her face in exhaustion. Honestly, Slash knows about that, and I feel she keeps calling Sean and I that because she loves to tease us. Akano replied to Rosa. My, that does sound frustrating. Rosa looked surprised as she asked, I said that aloud, didn't I? Brains remarked. Yeah, hard to not hear your inner monologue. So did we miss anything? Sean said as he entered the door, with the 4 turtle brothers, 2 Autobots, Windblade and Bumblebee, and a new girl with long indigo hair, a pink and magenta stripe along her hair, and a decorative sword by her hips. Riaz and the others were a little surprised to meet this new girl, and prompted Koneko to ask, who is that? That girl with the sword. The new girl coughed a little before she introduced herself. Oh, my bad. I thought we were already acquainted. Though, I guess there were other things on your minds at the time I already introduced myself. Well, I'll do it again. My name is Twilight. I was part of the Zaxxon's crew, and I was more or less tasked with smoothing things over with the Autobots and the governments of this world, to form a global alliance, so to speak. Sean also added, she's from the same reality as the Autobots, and this isn't what she normally looks like. Twilight here is also the one who saved Riser Phoenix's life from Sixit. Ravel heard this and said to Twilight, thank you for saving my idiot big brother's life. Twilight responded, oh, it's no big deal. Sean and myself have quite a history with that Decepticon. Sounds interesting. I know I would like to know more about this Sixit and why he's... Akano began to say, until a 903 interrupted. Got it. Prime's calling us now. A holographic screen appeared as Optimus said through it. A 903, J709, is Ria's Gremory and her friends there. We're all here, Pax. Slash said, confusing the Occult Research Club on why the Femme Dinobot called him Pax. What has Kara and Skylynx discovered about this universe's Cybertron... An intelligent-sounding voice answered through the communication channel. Just me, Slash. Power Girl had to respond to an emergency call from an alien race several light years from this solar system, and insisted that I tell you what we found. and insisted that I tell you what we found, despite me being the more obvious choice to handle rescues. Issy thought, oh, so this is what Optimus meant by Skylinks taking some getting used to. He's a total braggart, Optimus said after this. Skylinks, what did you and Power Girl find? Skylinks answered his commanding officer, we found Cybertron, but it would be better to show you as I explain this. Skylinks transmitted a video feed and what was shown absolutely shocked the Autobots and their allies. Your choice. Shocking discovery. Sean exclaimed. Cybertron is destroyed, Rosa added after her husband. There are 2 planets in ruins in the same orbit. What the hell happened to Cybertron? Twilight said, her hands over her mouth. Issy and the other Kuotown residents were shocked themselves at what Skylinks has transmitted, even though they never saw Cybertron. Cybertron was torn to pieces, with another planet-sized unknown object, itself torn to pieces like Cybertron. There was evidence that both of these metal planets were blown to pieces in a manner that was beyond the scope of what they can imagine. Optimus asked with a voice riddled in disbelief, what happened to Cybertron, to result in this state? Skylinks answered, that's not even the most shocking piece of news Power Girl and myself found. This is what that transmission we've discovered was all about. Skylinks transmitted a recording. There was static, a garbled voice, then something that made everyone tense up once the voice became clear. Optimus uttered, it can't be ... to anyone who receives this message. This is Megatron, Kraturt's leader of the Decepticons' Warriors of Freedom. No way, Issy said, eyes wide with fear and disbelief. That's Megatron. Meanwhile at the Decepticon base, Soundwave intercepted the transmission that Skylinks sent to the Autobots. Every Decepticon were as shocked as the Autobots, leaving Megatron to shout in disbelief. What is the meaning of this trickery? This was a mystery, as the Megatron in the recording looked as weary and tired as Optimus.